You ready to get started? I'm excited. This is me wiggling in my chair. I'm excited. All right, so we got Tinkercad going here. And we're going to build this part. You can see I've actually already built it, but we're going to go from scratch. Here's my measure drawing. It's important to get your environment set up, ready to go. I like to keep my measure drawing next to me at all times. So I'm going to make a new design. I'm excited. Just had lunch. Okay. They're going to give you an interesting name. I'm going to call this one Build One Live. Okay. So what I want to do, I like to think about this build as a subtractive build. So what I'm going to do is create a big block, and then I'm going to cut pieces out of it. So I'm going to make a box. I'm going to drag it to my screen. And let's see, I'm going to be dealing in inches. So how do I change my settings? There is a way to change my settings. Edit grid, there it is. Inches, that looks good. I'm going to snap on 1/8 inch. That should probably work. If I need to change it, I'll change it. I'm going to grab a box and drag it. And then let's talk a little bit about how to navigate around this environment. This will always work. I'm clicking down with my left mouse button and rolling around. Strong recommendation you get a mouse. This is really hard to do 3D trackpad. Totally possible. Much, much, much easier with a mouse. You can click on individual sides and corners and it will rotate, which is pretty cool. That corner gives you that corner view and top and side. You press home and it'll take you back to the standard view that it likes. I actually like this one. You'll notice when I'm building, I like to orient and get things looking flat here. So first thing I want to do is I can switch on and off perspective view. And I'm going to switch back to home view so you can see that. So right now, perspective view is on, which means as I rotate around, it looks kind of realistic. Right? And what it's doing is it's changing the size of things that are further away versus what are closer to me. If I switch to orthographic view, this looks kind of weird when you rotate around. But orthographic view is really helpful for when you're building because things that are supposed to be flat are flat. For example, as I'm dragging this around and I'm on the top view, that block looks like it fits exactly here, and that is correct. It fits exactly there. So you'll see me switching back and forth between perspective and orthographic views. While I'm building, I typically build orthographic. So here's what I'm going to do. I have a block, but it's not the right size. I'm going to resize it. I'm going to make it, it looks like the distance from here all the way across is 5 inches. So let's do that first. I'm going to go to top view, and let's see. I'm going to drag it first, and then I'm going to change its size. And you'll notice this number is changing. You actually can just click right on that number and go 5. Let me show you what I did. So now it's the right length, right? The distance from here to here is 5, but the distance from here to here is incorrect. And that looks like, by my measurements, that should be 3 inches. So I'm going to go back to the top view, and I'm going to grab this guy and go out 3. Go back to home. That looks good. You can switch to perspective view, and it looks a little bit better. You notice I'll try to keep the orientation of this object similar to this one because I don't want to work so hard to try to like build the shape facing this direction using those measurements, because then like I'd have to imagine rotating 3 inches around in my head, and I don't want to do that. So I try to keep views aligned similarly. So that's a pretty close parallel to the standard orthographic view. You can change colors if you like. I'm going to. I like this light blue. I think it's pretty. My kids would probably say that's green. Okay, so there's a third dimension here. I have length and width, but I don't know if I got height right. So it looks like the distance from the bottom to the tippy top is 1.5 inches. So I'm going to make sure that I am in orthographic view and that my height is 1.5 inches, and it is. All right, so let's go back. Let's go to perspective view so it looks cool. Okay. So I have a block that's the right size as this block, but now there's like these things cut off the sides and in the middle and through the other side. So let's start doing that. what I'm going to do is introduce you to something called a work plane. A work plane is how you can add and subtract from things. And since I told you this was going to be a subtractive exercise, it's not the only way to do it. You could do this in an additive way where you sort of build parts a little bit at a time and then you add pieces and add pieces and add pieces, kind of like Lego style, like you glue them together. I'm imagining taking this and cutting pieces away because that just makes more sense for my head for this piece. So I'm going to take a work plane. I'm going to click on work plane. And then I'm going to hover over my mouse on the different parts of the shape and notice how I can click the right mouse button and move around. It's trying to attach itself to all these different surfaces. It's really helpful for me because what I want to do is look at this side and cut some pieces away. So I'm going to left click on this and notice what happens now. My work plane is this big yellow grid on the face here. So now I have a work plane. It's on this side. I'm going to click on left. I'm going to make sure that I'm in orthographic view. And then you'll notice that my shape and my grid are not in the right place. So a little trick for Tinkercad is you can always move stuff around so that it fits. You can use your mouse wheel to zoom in and out, and you can hold shift and right click to get it all centered. So what I've done is I've taken my shape and I've put it in the corner on this major grid line. You can see how these grid lines are a little bit darker than the other ones. And then my grid snaps down below are every 1/8 of an inch. That means as I move up, it's going to jump up 1/8 of an inch each time. And that's really going to help me here in a second when I start doing some measurement. So here's what I'd like to do. I want to cut these little rectangles off the bottom. And the way I'm going to do that is by taking a box. And it doesn't matter when you start with. I'm going to use this one, and you'll see why in a second. I'm going to drag one to the screen. And then I'm going to resize a little bit so I can still see my menus. Oh boy, getting excited on zooms. Okay, that box is a hole. If I clicked on solid, it would be a solid, and you can change colors. So this one just starts out as a hole. This one starts out as a solid. Excuse me. I'm going to use this one as a hole, and I'm going to cut out a rectangle from the bottom that is 0.625 inches in this direction, and whatever this height is in this direction. Now, here's where this gets a little confusing. There's this 0.500 right here. What is that measuring? It's actually measuring right here. 0.75 measures right here. So there's no information on this diagram how tall this is. So I need to do a little subtraction problem. So I know the whole height is 1.5. I'm going to subtract 0.75, then I'm going to subtract 0.5. And what I'll do when I'm done with that is I'll end up with a height of 0.25. Not 1/8. Let's go back. Let's go back. And let's drag this down and resize it to 0.25. Awesome. And then this distance is 0.625, which happens to be 5/8. So that looks pretty cool. All right. So now I'm going to click on my right mouse here and rotate around and show you what I've got. I've got this empty box. I'm going to go to work plane and put it back on the surface to get out of the way here. So I've got this empty box, and it's right next to this big shape. Watch what happens when I click on it and I just move it. Where's my move button? I want to, nope. That's not what I want. Well, I'm going to show you real quick. I'm just going to grab it and move it. It's going to be in the wrong place, but that's okay. You're going to get this example of what's happening because I'm going to show you this really big idea for Tinkercad, and then it speeds up really fast from here. I have a positive shape and a negative shape, or in the language, we have solid and hole. And if I click off, and then what I'm going to do is click on the hole, and then I'm going to hold the shift key and click on the solid, so they're both selected. And then I go up here to group. Look at that right there. It looks like it was a square and a circle that got smushed. Watch what happens when I click group. It cuts out that piece. So you can see I put it in the wrong spot, but if I had had it in the correct place and stretched it out and then did another one on the other side, I could actually cut out those side pieces. So I'm going to do that. So let's go back. Let's put our work plane back where it's supposed to be. Let's look here. Okay, let me check to make sure my dimensions are correct. 5/8 in that direction and 1/4 in that direction, so that looks good. Now I'm going to slap this work plane back down here. I like it. I'm going to go to the top view. Make sure I'm in orthographic. And then I'm going to click and hold shift and click. So I've selected both of these, and then I'm going to slap them down on a grid. This is going to make it much easier to move these pieces. Now I'm going to take this component and I want to stretch it out. And I'm just going to make it go all the way through the object. Oh, and look, I grabbed the wrong one. Isn't that cool? So let me get a better view on this. I think I was grabbing the wrong handle. There we go. Okay, so I dragged that one all the way through. I could go do this same select and group, and but I don't want to do that yet. I'm going to do something new. No, I'm going to do that. I like that. There's a way to use mirroring. Those of you who know Tinkercad know that there are probably much faster ways to do this. But I cut that piece out, so that's nice. I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side. I also found, I don't know where to find them here, but if you Google Tinkercad keyboard shortcuts, this sheet, which you can download as a PDF, is really helpful. And I learned something on here that I really like. If you click on an object and press the D key, it drops it to the surface, which is really helpful. All right, so I'm going to go back and put the work plane back on this face. Go here, drag things around, make sure I can use my grid correctly, and then I'm going to throw another box in the corner. Make it 1/4 of an inch by 5/8, which is 0.625. Then we're going to take it and put our work plane, which you can click there, or if you hover over it, shows you the keyboard shortcut. It's W. And then we're going to take this object, stretch it out, shift to select both and group. And now I have, switch back to perspective view. Take a look at that. That actually is very similar to this one, and we have successfully cut out our first part. What I'm going to do now is work on these corners. There's an interesting way to do this. So I'm going to slap a work plane here again. Very quickly, these things start to become repetitive, which actually is a really good sign because you're getting an idea of some of the basic movements you can make that really speeds you up. So I need to cut the corners off here, and there is a wedge shape that's going to allow me to do that. Now, that just looks like a rectangle or a square or a cube or a geometry. But look at that. Look at its orientation. If I could take that and rotate it correctly, I could actually slice this corner. Except, you know what? That's not going to be the right size because of the 30-degree angle. So I wonder if I could stretch it. I don't know if that's going to work. So I'm going to change my mind here. I'm going to go back, and I'm going to try something with a box. I'm going to put the box up here. I'm going to stretch the box out, and actually I want it to be a hole. I'm going to try rotating. And I'm going to rotate this thing 30 degrees in that direction because I know my angle here is supposed to be 30 degrees. Now, is it possible for me to just slide this down along that angle? Boy, I don't know. What I really would love to have happen left is I'd love this point to go down to the right height. And where is that supposed to be? 0.75. It's supposed to be, there's 0.25, there's 0.5, and there's 0.75. So if I could get that corner to right there, nice. Okay. So I'm going to go through this game again where I go back to the work plane. Going to take this and stretch it across the object. Rotate so I can select both pieces. And there we go. I got that side cut off. So I'm going to repeat the same process for the other side here. Let's go left. Let's go work plane. Let's make sure that we are on a major grid line. All right, left. Okay. So we'll play the same game here. We'll make a big rectangle. We'll do this. We'll rotate that direction, but this time it's going to be a negative 30 degrees. And then we're going to drag that corner down. That's 0.5. That's 0.75. Love it. Let's take this object, and that's the wrong handle. So you'll see a lot of times I got to get different angles to make this work. That's actually the handle I want. Notice I'm not being real precise on how big the hole is because all I'm doing is using it to cut through the object. So I don't need to be super precise on that. All right, look at that. Look at how quickly we got. No, look how quickly we got to that. We've got those cut, those cut, those cut, those cut all the way across. So as I look at this, I think there's two more cuts. There's a cut this direction. See the direction my mouse is moving? And then there's a cut down with the hole. So I think I want to do the cut across. I'm going to put a work plane on that surface. And then we're still in orthographic, which is good. All right. So what I need is a cut that starts a 1/2 inch in from the sides. And then how far down is that cut? That cut is down 0.75. So I'm going to do that with a box. So that's a 1/4 inch in. That's a 1/2 inch in. And we'll go to a 1/2 inch on that side. And here's what I mean. The distance from here to here is 1/2 inch. Distance from here to here is 1/2 inch. That's good. And then I need to take this and go down, cutting into the object. There's 1/2 inch. And there's 0.75. And you can actually see it's right in line with that previous, which is good. So I bet you can predict what I'm going to do now. Let's get that work plane out of our way. We're going to grab this handle and drag through our shape. And look, it gives us a preview of what's going to happen. Cut it out. Look at that. So quick. So quick. All right. I need to move that shape, though, because that's kind of driving me nutty. Good. That looks pretty good. So just the hole on top, and I think we're ready to go. Let's drop a work plane on that surface. Let's go to the top. Boy, that doesn't want to click. Okay. And then we'll get on a major grid line, making sure we're still on orthographic view. That looks good. That looks good. So that hole has a 1 inch diameter. And it is 1 inch in from that side and 2.5 inches in from that side. So I'm going to show you this trick that I use for guidelines. I like to use rectangles. And right now that rectangle's not in the right place. But what I want to do is resize it in this direction and this direction. And I'm going to use that corner as the center of my circle. So you'll see what I mean here in a second. All right, so that dimension needs to be 2.5. That's this distance right here. And then this dimension needs to be 1 inch in from the center. So let's see, that's 1 inch in from the center. Okay. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm using this cube, or excuse me, this rectangular prism, and that bottom corner right there to point to me where I need to draw my circle. So it's kind of like a jig. If you've ever used a jig in real life to do some kind of sawing or getting your blade in the right spot, it's a spacer or a little jig. I like to use a physical jig for something like this. Okay, now I'm not done though because I got to drop a cylinder in there. So let's go back to the work plane. Getting ahead of myself. Go back to this top view. Now I'm wondering why. Did I measure that wrong? I don't think I did. I think I know what's going on. I'm going to go ahead and select those two pieces. You know how I moved the work plane? I think my grid is a little messed up. So I have those two things selected. And so they're going to move together, and then I'm going to put them back on those major grid lines. See, I put this corner in the major grid line. Now, clicking off. That looks good. Okay, good. So that's still right where it's supposed to be. Sorry, y'all. I just got a little excited. All right, so we're going to drop a cylinder in right on the center. And check. Oh, look, it's already 1 inch by 1 inch. Perfect. Now, I'm going to stretch up this direction, and then we're going to use this tool for the first time. This actually moves us down into the object. And I'm going to select the cylinder and our primary shape and group those together. And there's a hole. And now I'm done with my jig, so I'm just going to delete it. And there you have it. There is build 1. I hope you enjoyed this. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Bye.